Hello, everybody. Welcome. You guys are here, and this is me and Nick. Pretty much, we've only talked for maybe 10 minutes before this, so we're also kind of getting to know each other. And I know a couple people, at least on my side, have told me to reach out to Nick. They said we would definitely get along, so here we are. And I think we're
Don't
just
mind
gonna
me if I look busy for a second. I'm just about
now.
to blast this out on my Substack too.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll drop a note as well. Um, but you know what? I kind of just want to hear before we get anything else, kind of I want to like get to know Nick, and then kind of once we go from there, um, we can kind of start talking about stuff. There's no shortage of things to talk about in, you know, July almost.
Huh. In
The,
the
the,
year 2025 of our
yeah, did
dear
George
Savior
Orwell
America.
script this shit or what, dude? Is this the
Yeah,
book we never read? Is
it's the
this like
fucking
nine?
Truman Show that's living in real life is what it is.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I told my friend the other day, I'm like, the reason this shit feels so dystopian is because they're a bunch of fucking fascist Nazi nerds. So
Yeah,
they're literally making their own like it's Star Wars, you know. Oh yeah, it is. They
but it's
want to
the
be the
worst.
fucking Palpatine. Yeah,
Yeah, it's the worst
exactly.
of the writing.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
let me introduce myself real quick for your
For sure.
audience.
Yeah.
I'm Nick. I'm the writer of Sick of This Shit with Nick. I also podcast for Sick of This Pod, and now I'm hosting Sick of This Shows. If you can guess the theme, I'm pretty sick of this shit. But I'm not only sick of it, I'm trying to do something about it. So the motto is going from sick of this shit to doing some shit. So you may as well do some shit. And I'm here. I'm an army vet. I have pretty good history randomly. I am a music theory and composition major one time ago at Carnegie Mellon. I have a software engineering degree. I've worked in big tech. I've worked on startup. I lost my job just about a month ago. Um, and for the last couple, 3, almost 4 weeks now, I've just been rocking it on Substack. I write politically based poetry. And hard hitting social events. And I'm just trying to get the word out. I'm trying to get civic minded people to be actioning and building community. So,
Yeah. Well, I could not agree. I think everything you're doing there is fantastic. That's what and in spirit of what we are here at the Firebrand Project, and I'll kind of talk about myself as well here for a second, but you are absolutely a firebrand. Firebrand, if the very definition of it is someone who speaks out against the system, who disrupts the status quo, and seeks for truth in the darkness, right? That's why I started the Firebrand Project, as all of this was going to hell, and I looked around and I said, well, I feel like I see all these things. I've read the Republic. I think like, Socrates. You want to think like Plato, and if these guys were here now, they'd be asking all of these questions. And if we could kind of step back and, start thinking a little bit more Socratically, if we could start thinking and asking those tangential questions and applying that method, um, and just take people down my thought process. I never lecture. I don't write to tell people what's going on. I write to talk to them.
yeah,
We are always having a dialogue. I open every post with firebrands and new readers alike. We're here. You're here. I'm not writing to tell you. I'm writing to talk to you about this. And that I just put my thoughts on paper as if I was sitting there talking to you, and people like it, and I like
yeah,
that you like it, and um, I have a freaking problem. I'm sick of this shit too, Nick,
yeah, man.
and it's getting ridiculous, and there has to be more people asking the questions in the right way because a lot of people care, and that's
Yeah,
a lot of people care, but they don't know how to get to the core of the issue. And every time I write, I really try to just, lay it out there and say, well, this is how I think about it. And I actually did a live recently where we went through my entire investigative process. So I read the AI executive order before I'd even seen it. We all sat down and we investigated that executive order together. We went through my process, we went through how I looked at it, we went down the page and we read it. And then we answered those questions as they came. And we ended being like, holy shit, that's the scariest fucking thing I've ever seen. But we did it together. And
Yeah.
the idea is that we all get on this page where we can attack these questions the right way and get to the truth and not get stuck in this loop that the media has given us, this idea that it doesn't stop at the headline. That's not, I guess if I can summarize it, I'm very long-winded. Um,
Amen. So am I.
if I can summarize it, what I would say is it's not the headline, it's the questions the headline gives you. And that's not, the news is never what the headline says, it's what that headline means.
Yeah.
Um,
And the headlines are misleading a lot of the time. And the
yeah,
news, we've become so I come at things from a lot of perspectives. I come at it from the veteran perspective. I come at it from the I'm a disabled veteran. I rely on the VA for my health care. We can get into that discussion sometime if you want to.
yeah,
But I'm also a software engineer.
right.
My specialty is in platform development, and
Wow.
what that is, and or DevOps, which is developer operations. And what that is connecting systems and connecting people and processes to simplify it and further unify our experience or to make somebody else's life easier. But I also ascribe to the philosophy of software is meant to do good and not just don't do bad. It's do good. And you have to do good with what you're doing. And that's sort of what I'm trying to do right now. Since I uh left my tech job for now, and so I got my role got consolidated out, and that's okay. Um, it was probably my time to move on from the company in the end anyway. And I'm looking at it as the best bad thing that ever happened to me. Um, because I've gotten 3 weeks that I've been on here and I've been able to write poetry about the shit that's going on. So how it got started was I got pissed. I've been on Substack for since a little before the election. And I was putting out a couple articles here and there just on my thoughts about things going on, especially on things like accepting like my one of my first articles and one that I'm really proud of is one called What's Love Got to Do with It? Um, and it was just me writing about how I'm reaching out to a family member and I care about them. And I don't want anything in return. I just care about them. And it's all about building community and rebuilding our family. And then I lost my fucking job in the middle of all this shit. And I was like, well, I'm going to either go to hell and get into a depressive state because I have been there. I've been down to the bottom. Like one of my videos not too long ago was introducing how a VA doc basically drove me to want to commit suicide in front of my kids. In a hospital, told them I would rather die than have him tell me how little my life was worth in dollars. Um, Coming out of that, though, the VA has been the most beneficial thing in my life on the other end of it because um, the mental health team is amazing. And they showed me what community can be and how you can grow that shit, and how you can actually accept yourself. And it's all that corny stuff about like be mindful and be like aware of what you're doing, but it fucking works, dude. Like all it is a little bit of love, a little bit of empathy, a little bit of care for yourself, and then you can reflect that care at other people. And so I took it and I was like, I've been doing this for 2 years, doing this therapy for 2 years, figuring it out. I may as well fucking use it to the most that I can. I have a degree in music, so I was like, well, I can write poetry. I know that. I know words. I know how to write. And I did. And instead of bitching about my job, I just bitched about the system and like and I started some stuff about robber barons and how they're fucking us and the right to work mentality and those systems. And then I got into it on some political stuff, and then the Epstein thing just dropped. And I have been writing sonnets. Like I relearned how to write a sonnet just so I could fucking start writing them. And I've written like like 7 or 10 about Epstein at this point. I could write a fucking book by the end. I'm gonna have the Epstein sonnets. I'm actually gonna retitle it to the Trump sonnets by the end. Um, but one of my big things is I care about tech and the use of tech in our society and like how we can use it well. And these motherfuckers aren't. And people like Palantir are how we're all gonna die. Um, but
Yeah. Yeah.
we
I
we
mean,
could go that road if you want.
yeah.
We don't want to go
I
I don't want to
I
go the
think
dark path tonight.
I think that there is, it's hard, to your point, it's hard to stay off the dark path these days. It's like
Yeah.
actually very difficult. Like, when I started writing, and it's like I almost thought like before because the first articles I put out, some of the best ones I when I was kind of learning, they were all about the economy. It was about how we're getting fucking robbed every
Yeah.
single day and how we're just letting it happen. How when you choose like how there's over $1 trillion in consumer debt and that we literally could never pay it back. And that the only reason these guys get rich is because they buy and sell debt packaged into securities that they get capital gains on. They are literally profiting off of your labor because you have to pay that debt. The definition of that is slavery.
Yes.
But again, it's you have to ask it the questions in the right way. But
It's
most people
it's
never get there
yeah, because it's
because,
wrapped in a bow.
correct, it's I'm giving you money. No, I'm giving you money. I'm
Hmm.
creating money. I'm not creating interest. I'm actively creating a deficit that will never, ever be paid back because there is less cash in the actual economy than there is in the entire. So we have less money than we owe them, always. In fact, there will always be more debt. It doesn't matter. And my favorite thing to think about is if we all suddenly got loaded and paid back our debt tomorrow, the economy would fall apart. It would crash.
Uh-huh.
It would end because they need this debt, these
Yeah.
securities, to make money. And that's why capital gains is not taxed. They benefit off of what we owe. And that is what is that? What is credit? It's sharecropping. It's modern sharecropping. What did they do to the slaves? They didn't want to release the slaves. They didn't want them to be free, but they said, guess what? You can live on this land. I'll give you this land and I'll give you these seeds and all this stuff. And all you got to do is grow it, sell it, and then you can pay me back. And then eventually you'll own your land. Except guess what? They never could pay it back. And
Sounds
they
like
were
freedom
slaves.
cities, doesn't it?
Say, right? It's, we are not free. And that was
No.
why I started writing. We haven't been free for decades. When Reagan slashed the fucking tax cuts, when he opened up stock buybacks is one of the worst things that ever happened because we don't have a free market anymore
No.
because of stock buybacks. Right? These are all things. And this is like where I started. This is like my deep passion because
Yeah.
I also think that economic warfare is the only way we win.
Okay.
That's our last
So
recourse.
so I got a question for you then. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on, because I'm huge into progressive progressive systems for profiting the people and giving back to the labor of our work. Like, let's take AI. We're at a stage where AI is about to become incredibly prevalent in our everyday life in ways that we are not prepared for or aware of. Most people don't understand what AI really is and where it's being built into the most people. So I'll just give a little bit of hint because I've been on the inside. I know a little bit of what it looks like from a techie side. AI is being embedded into everything. Literally every piece of every software is having AI embedded into it somewhere to either do an algorithmic check and data analysis on something, to streamline your own software processes, to monitoring the software to ensure that it's stable and alive. we all see just the front end. Most people just see the front end where that's really just prompting, and that's AI prompting and language prompts. But what goes behind it is all the data. And that's the things about like Palantir and stuff like that. Um, but AI is a really interesting one, and I'm going to ask you here in a second because the economics behind it is really fascinating, and I'm all for universal basic income. And I have a feeling you would be along those lines as well. Is what do you think about the profitability and using AI as the source of income generation for a universal basic income in the United States?
I see AI as it's kind of like a twofold thing, right? So even if you're using an AI, right,
Hmm.
to basically make money, right? That's a UBI. So you're saying basically that that AI would do a service which generates income, which then is what that universal income is
Well,
then
no,
distributed.
AI doesn't do a service. AI is the service. So we're looking at a job loss in most major sectors that people are probably not ready for. They're going to be pushing job losses because things are going to consolidate. Workers are not as needed. Labor is not as needed because most people think they can get rid of it because they think AI is ready and it's not. It's going to cause a problem, but it's going to shrink the labor force drastically. So we're not going to be producing, and instead of making up jobs, like Star Trek, for example, they didn't just make up jobs. There's something funding the ability for them to be able to do these things in some way. AI has the potential for that from energy production to data center management to all of those things, but in itself, it has the ability to produce. Like we are a service economy. Um, could we harness that for the service of the future?
Uh,
Because we're at a precipice of AI taking over, almost a singularity style. Like, what is your idea? What is your thoughts on? Do you think AI could be used in that way?
I mean, so just to clarify, I want to make sure that I'm answering it the right way, but
Hmm.
you're saying that the service AI is the service is provided by AI to other companies, that income generated goes back into UBI, correct? Just
Yes.
so I understand.
Yes.
Okay.
Just like sort of like Social Security, but it's a dividend that we buy back into as the people. We're the owners of it because we produced it. It's our collective knowledge that's backing it anyway. So we should get dividends for it.
Right. Okay. Right, because AI is trained off of the people, right? So if you
Hmm.
retroactively look at that, the only reason AI is smart, for example, ChatGPT, is because people use ChatGPT. ChatGPT would not be smart if it hasn't been learning from people. If
Correct.
ChatGPT can write poetry, it's only because people were writing poems in ChatGPT, right? It couldn't, arguably, you could say, oh, it went and read all of, Edgar Allan Poe and all these other, writers and whatnot. Sure. But it's learning right off of us. And I think that it's viable, but I almost would push back a little bit on the idea of AI having anything to do with UBI at all. I don't, I'm deeply concerned about AI. I think that,
Oh, I am
like you
too.
said earlier, people have no fucking idea what AI is. It's not, and beyond that, so I am big on the environment, okay, and the sciences in regards to um, global warming and what that means, and just how close we are to the apocalypse, and we don't even understand. Like we've already passed the point of no return, so we're not even like there's literally unless, which again, I don't want to say there is no return because we don't have the science, we don't know necessarily what science is out there, and we honestly perform best when we're like, oh fuck, we're all gonna die. That's kind of
Yeah.
just how humans do. Um, but the problem with all of that it is that yes, but AI requires so much energy. And
Yes.
people don't get that. Your chat GPT prompt requires so much energy. Like that single prompt just put so much emissions into the environment. And AI at its current use right now and they're going to expand it. Everyone's using it, like you said. They were saying the AMOC, which is the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Current. Okay, that's what moves all of the heat around the planet. It's all about salt. It's very interesting, but you have heavy water. It basically drops to the bottom of the ocean right next to Greenland, and then it goes back under. And that water, all of that water moving is what moves heat. So Europe would be a freaking iceberg without the AMOC. Okay. The Gulf of Mexico would get even hotter and be spewing crazy hurricanes 24/7, which is interesting because we're starting to see Cat 5s and we've like never seen Cat 5s.
Well,
No one's paying
they were
attention.
considering Cat 6s.
Absolutely.
Like
And that's
they're talking
not,
about a new stage of tornadoes too,
yeah.
of the EF6 rather than just an EF5. They're getting more powerful and they're getting
And they
everywhere.
will. And they will continue to. There's
Oh,
these heat domes.
did you hear we're cutting funding to NOAA and the
I wrote
National
about it.
Weather Service?
I
Oh,
I read
did
about I
you?
I wrote about
Interesting.
that. I wrote about it actually before the bill passed. Weeks before the flooding in Texas happened, I wrote a piece where I said, you guys need to pay attention to your own weather. Like, I care about you, and I'm telling you this because no one's going to come and save you." And it was several weeks
Mhm.
before Texas, and then no one came and saved them. And all those people died in Texas. And I hate that. I hate writing about something and then watching it happen. Like,
Yeah.
it might be the worst feeling I have because I did. It was like the gutting of FEMA, and it's one of my posts. And like I was like, God, I wish this was viral because it could save lives if people understood what was happening. And
Yeah.
then, but this is prior to it being passed. Um, and before it was passed, I wrote this, and then
Hmm.
now they've passed it. So now the cuts to NOAA are real. Now all of those people are gone. Those were just Doge firings. Just to be very clear, like the reason what happened in Texas happened was not from the cuts. It was just Doge vacancies. We're
Yeah.
not
It
even
was all
talking.
Elon's fault.
Yeah, we're not even talking about what's going to happen now. They were already struggling to launch these weather balloons. I like firmly believe that Florida is going to get hit by a hurricane that they didn't even see form. Like we're there, we're at that point where like they'll know maybe an hour or two before, and then
So,
like thousands will die. It's going to be
so
horrible.
I live in Arkansas and I live in Tornado Alley, and we're actually, I mean, we're our governor, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and
Mm,
our Republican representatives and senators all are still begging the Trump administration for FEMA aid from last year's tornadoes.
correct.
Last year's, not this year's, not this season's tornadoes. There's still places nearby us that are cleaning up from tornadoes that hit last year. Like,
And
we keep getting freaking weather alerts that are like severe thunderstorm and there's nothing. Or we'll get no weather alerts and there is a severe thunderstorm. Like, the models are actively breaking down and it's on purpose. And on top of it, they also just stopped sending data from the DoD to NOAA and the National Weather Service for the radar models, which makes them even more degraded because guess who has the most sophisticated network of weather satellites and balloons in the
the
world? Our
DOD and the Navy.
fucking Navy.
Yes, yep, our Navy, of course. Well, and speaking of that, right? Let's talk about our Navy. They've never, ever reported on their emissions, ever. Our
No,
Navy,
and that's something we should we should have that talk about.
and the transparency of our military in terms of what they do, what they spend on. How many audits have they failed? Right?
I mean,
Like,
what, 14 years in a row now?
yeah, and
Since
it's
they
funny.
started auditing them?
Right. And it's funny because it's like if you look in Russia, right? They say the problem, I hate all these YouTube channels. The American military is the best military in the world. They're so great. For how long? Because you know what the problem is in Russia with their stuff is everyone embezzles shit from their so the officer, hey, here's $1 million to get new boots for your regiment. The officer takes 800,000 and then buys half the boots. And then they tell their superiors, I bought all the boots. Are you
So
telling me that that's not happening in our DOD when we're failing audits? Like, I don't believe that at
so
all.
let me tell you how it works in the DoD because I cannot tell you about I won't tell you about what I did in my job because I have a NDA that requires me not to talk about what I did in my work, and that's fine. Um, and it expires, I think, 50 years after I die or something like that. I think I have a like 150-year NDA. They took care of it. So you don't have to worry about me telling anything that I'm worried about. But this is not a secret for the military is the military is an organization because it's a service and not it's just like the post office. The post office is a service and not a business. It's not meant to make money. And I think one, before we talk about the failing of the audits, because that's super important and that's where this is going, is we have to frame it as the military is a service and we give money to it. It's not meant to make money in return. Just like the post office, just like realistically, just like schools, they're not really supposed to make money in return. They're services for our country, and we should be thinking of them as that way, as in you are signing up to be a service member of some sort, to be a teacher, because you're serving the future of our country and the betterment of our country. But what the military does for its budget is, let's say you were pretty close, is let's say officer was given or a unit was given $1 million for a training budget. And so beginning of the year, they won't send anyone anywhere. They might send like one or two people somewhere and be like, hey, you guys, you're top shit. You're going to these schools. Middle of the year comes around, they're like, no, we got to save all this money. We got to make sure we got this money. We got to make sure that we have it for training and equipment and stuff like that towards the end of the year. When nobody has spent any of the money, they're like, oh shit, we got to spend all of the money because if we don't spend the money, it gets reduced. When you don't spend money on a military budget, there is no surplus. It is you are allocated this amount of money. And if you use it, you use it. And the next year, if you've used it, we'll give you some more. If you haven't used it, we'll give you less because you apparently didn't need all of it. So we're going to give you less. What we've trained our military to do is spend as much as we can to fit the quota of spending and not fit the quota of training or improvement. Because our military is awesome. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a reason Palantir is about to be the scariest fucking thing that nobody has ever heard of in this country. It's because they're good as shit at what they do. They're data collection and aggregators. And they let our military be more efficient and more lethal than anybody else. Problem with our military is just what you said. It's a racketeering scheme in a way because it's made to be that way so that they spend more money.
So let me ask you a question. Um,
Yeah.
like basically that budget, right? That million
Mhm.
dollars in training. Oh shit, it's the end of the year. They're going to look around and say, you know what? We have $1 million, and let me, for the sake of my analogy or my question here, I'm going to change it. You have $1 billion on equipment. Okay, you need
Mhm.
$1 billion worth of equipment. We'll refit a couple of these, Bradleys. We'll, do some maintenance on our Abrams. End of the year. Oh shit. Boeing. I'd like to contract 40 brand new, state of the art vehicles that actually haven't even been developed that you only have a prototype for. I'd like to spend all of my $1 billion on that. And then they just spent that whole budget, but the military didn't get anything back. And they're just giving it to these contracting companies. And that's my understanding is that they're basically just dumping it into these private companies and it creates a loop. There's a feedback loop where
Yeah.
the people are profiting on, like you have Northrop Grumman and all these places, right? And they have all of these orders they're supposed to
Mhm.
fill. And it takes years, decades sometimes. And you would think the amount of money they're getting, that they would be pumping this shit out like crazy. Like, look at Ukraine in a wartime. They're able to manufacture a million, like, I think it was 6 million drones a year. Okay, they're under pressure, right? So we know that a country with less advanced infrastructure, a pressed workforce, they have to pull these people, and they're able to manufacture 6 million drones, and they've done this in under a year. So you're telling me that Boeing and all of these companies can't provide these jets and these things in less than 10 years? I'm going to call bullshit because we have the ability and the infrastructure to do it. Where's the
Yes.
money going?
Yes. So part of it is it's an interesting topic because it's a lot of actually what Pete Buttigieg just talked about. It's something called basic research, and it's a fundamental thing that government is really good at and companies are not. So, what is basic research? Basic research is like cancer research, is something that doesn't make money really until 30 years down the line. Like AI or the internet, DARPANet is basic research. We built the internet as a people, as a society in America. We funded basic research by paying taxes and then having government scientists do a bunch of shit, fail a whole bunch of times, and waste a bunch of money at points, or felt like it, but there was always a goal in mind. They were always reaching towards something. The issue is, part, in my opinion, is we took basic research from the military and we moved it to private sectors because we said private can produce faster, private can produce more efficiently. Because for the most part, a lot of times, yes, private can. And what it was our World War II economy, is we shifted everything to a World War II factory economy that built military equipment on an industrial scale for secondary to their company standard products like
It saved our
Kellogg's.
economy, right? Pulled
It
us out of the
saved our
Great
economy.
Depression. Without
Yeah.
World War II manufacturing, like we would never have gotten out of the Great Depression. But we
And
had all of these factories and things, and they needed weapons, and that's why
mhm.
we're the
and
global weapons provider, right?
and all the way up until, well, the thing is, we're a global weapons provider, but we're very slow at making arms, like you talked about. We're very slow at making things because we have no real incentive to make them fast any longer because America has no real opposition militarily for the most part. Nobody has ever really tried to attack the homeland because we're a big ass scary country who's really, really hard to invade in any way. We make Russia look easy to invade, to be honest. We have two oceans. We have two very large countries north and south of us for up until recently who really liked us. And we have a big ass set of mountain ranges on
That's
either
one of the
side of the
big ones.
country,
Yep. Hmm.
deserts. We have the
Yep.
hottest place in the fucking world.
Yep.
And then we have open grass plains and nothing in between. And just between mountain to mountain, there's flat. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Send your entire country in to try and take over America? No. So what you do instead is you take down its democracy from the inside and do what's exactly happening right now. And you tear down the institutions and moral fabric. So we're really hard to invade as a military. We're not really hard to invade as a society. So the military's awesome. They're just really bad with money because the military, like we said, on the money side of it, because that's really a big piece, is we need to figure out where we're bloated and wasted and waste, fraud, and abuse. Doge had a good idea. I will not disagree with the idea of Doge. I will disagree with Doge. One, fuck you, Elon Musk. If you know the difference between a Roman salute and a Nazi salute, you're a Nazi. Uh, and two, fuck you, Elon Musk. You make cars that kill people, and you want to tear down the institutions that protect our workers. Oh, and you then stole and aggregated all of our data from secure compartmentalized databases into centralized databases, which now we have no protections or rights over. And you stole all of my data without my fucking permission. And you added it to what? Mecha Hitler Grok?
Yeah.
And now we got Mecha Grok doing Hitler shit. And
Guess what? Mecha Grok Hitler no longer has any regulations thanks to the executive order they just signed. So they don't even, he can train himself on whatever he wants. And he also doesn't, he can absolutely have Nazi AI, and that's
even
not even a problem because
even
that's just cool now.
scarier, even scarier. I don't know. You've probably followed it a little. You've probably seen it though. Is the Executive Innovation Initiative, which is Detachment 201, I believe. It's a U.S. Army Reserve unit that just had three or four AI tech executives sworn
Yes, I saw that.
commissioned as lieutenant colonels, as light colonels, commissioned, no experience. And yes, it is a practice that we have done before, sending in SMEs who are the smartest in their field, who know what they're doing, does work. It was a good idea until you had a fascist in charge, and then you let OpenAI, Meta, and um, Palantir stuff it with their fucking tech executives who are now going to be defining the platforms to modernize and fit more efficiently serve the military, which just means Palantir owns more of the military. JD Vance has more control because it's not
Yeah, let
about Trump;
me.
it's about Vance.
Yeah, I'm gonna pivot. I think I'm gonna pivot because you just gave us a good opening to pivot here.
Yeah.
My this is my position. It's been my position from day one, and no one seems to talk about it. It's one of my biggest issues with independent media, and I'm talking about the Midas Touch Network. Yes, I'm talking about the Midas Touch Network. I've had a problem with them recently. They have never said Peter Thiel's name, not once. I have never ever seen them say his name.
I'll push back
They
on that. I'll push
okay?
back. Ken Harbaugh. You should listen to the Ken Harbaugh show and Fred Wellman. They are two veterans who and I don't and here I love the Midas Touch. I subscribe to them. I love their work. I love
I pay them monthly.
I
I
pay
love
them.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the work that they're doing. I totally agree. We need them harder on this. We need them harder on Peter Thiel. We need them harder on Elon Musk, on JD Vance, on Curtis Yarvin, on any of the PayPal mafia, because they're the ones who are controlling this. Because the biggest threat to our society is not Trump. He's a
Correct.
dying, doddering old man. We have to remember this. He's dying and he's old. Like, come on, guys. He's gonna be 80. He's almost as old as freaking Joe Biden was when, or he's older now than Joe Biden was when he started his term. And so, what the hell, guys? Like, let's not. We got what, 6 months a year. He's old. It's just nature. I'm not mad at the dude about that. He's just an old guy. He has a lot of shit I'm mad about. But JD Vance is going to be around for fucking ever. And so is Elon Musk. And he said it. He told the Republican Party, Trump's not going to be here much longer, but I the fuck am. So you better pay attention to me. And that's where we need to talk about is those guys. So yes, we need to go harder, but I'm pushing back because Ken Harbaugh
Yep.
has had Chris Goldsmith on a couple times now. And Fred Wellman has talked about it too, is they talk about it. It's not enough yet. But
Yeah.
maybe that's our job right now is we help push to get them to talk about it
Yeah,
more.
and maybe that's
And
why I'm yelling about them right
mhm,
now. And it's
yeah,
not, and I have seen Ken Harbaugh and I have seen them, and they're the Valor Network, correct? That's Valor Media,
um,
or is
Ken
that
does the Ken Harbaugh show, but it's
okay?
or burn the boats. He is on Midas Touch as well.
Okay,
He does smaller stuff with them right now. He
yeah.
goes
So
over
I
to
think he's
Ukraine a lot.
tangential,
Um,
right? He's been brought into the network. He didn't originate within the network,
He
correct?
wasn't one of the original. He's been there for a little bit, yeah, but more on the Valor Media side. Fred's been there for a while, and does the On Democracy
Yeah,
component every Friday, and that's one of the shows I like a lot. Um, and I like Fred because we interact with Fred during the shows, and he talks back, and he grows the shows on what we say too. So his
right.
when we give feedback and talk with Fred, like he takes it and learns and rolls. And that's what we need from networks like the Midas Touch, because I'm never going to be as big as they are. You're not as big as they are. They've been building this for fucking years. They got over 5 million of us who watch
That's
for a
that's that's what
reason.
I told. That's what I said like a while ago. I'm like, I'd love to have 1 million followers, right? I would love that. That'd be
Yeah.
great. But I don't. And that was my issue. And I guess to your point, when I say the Midas Touch Network, I'm talking about Ben Meiselas. I'm talking about Ben Meiselas because to your point, millions of people every day look at his face. And the only thing I have seen him talk about for months is how Trump is addled and confused and how Gavin Newsom is roasting him on social media and how he talks weird. Ben is a smart guy. He's a lawyer, and I know he's tactically choosing to say what he's going to say. And that blows my mind because, in my opinion, and if I have opinions, okay,
Hmm.
as the largest media platform, you're beating Joe Rogan, you beat Fox, you beat everybody else. They could turn, they could have Peter Thiel's name everywhere like that.
Yeah.
So they are either afraid, which might be possible, that if they're afraid that if they go that direction, they're just going to get striked and shut down. Maybe that's a fear. Maybe they think that could be a thing, and that's possible. I just had that thought right now. But at the end of the day, they're the only people who could do it. And if we flipped the priority, because that's our issue right now, right? Is that no one is paying attention to what's happening. That's why my mind was blown, because the only reason I looked in that AI executive order, the one titled Removing Barriers for American something, I had it
Some
pulled up here.
bullshit title.
Removing
Trump
barriers
fucked
to
up.
American leadership in artificial intelligence, right? Okay.
Yeah.
That
Big.
I only found that it's literally removing barriers
Yeah, yeah,
to
I know.
artificial intelligence,
I'm
right?
so,
That's what my joke
so
was,
skeptical.
as I
Yeah.
was like, get rid of American leadership and the in, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're removing
Hmm.
barriers to artificial intelligence.
Yep.
But the irony in all of that is that I only went and looked at that EO because Ben offhandedly mentioned that he signed an executive order on AI at a summit. And I'm like, holy shit, that sounds horrible. That sounds very bad. That they signed an EO on AI. And he glossed over it like it was nothing. And this executive order might be the singular most important play they have made. And when I say they,
Yeah.
I mean the deep state in months. Like he's dying, and you look around the room, what's going on? Epstein is everywhere. Mind you, who started this Epstein thing? Think about it. Him and Elon broke up, and then
Yep.
Elon dropped the Epstein files. Okay?
Hmm.
Elon initiated this because he's part of the PayPal mafia, and they're initiating phase 2, remove Trump. The vehicle is the Epstein files. He's either going to die, or they're going to get him for the
Get him
Epstein
impeached.
files.
Yeah.
And that's that. But the thing is, it's very funny. Again, you need to look around the room. Where's JD Vance? He's nowhere. It's intentional. They want him as
Hmm.
far away from this as possible. They want him to look as good as possible when he steps into the shoes. Now, this is where I think they're making a mistake. I
Yeah.
personally think this is a mistake, because what I think they don't understand. I think the reason they're doing this AI thing now is maybe because they know this to be true, is that Trumpism is a cult of personality. And they don't like JD Vance. They don't like him. They've never liked him. He's another Trump guy. I don't like him. Okay. So they don't like JD Vance. So they need to get their infrastructure in place now for mass surveillance and mass control before he dies. Because if
Yeah.
they lose control of the MAGA base, these are the people who stormed the Capitol and were down to hang Mike Pence.
Yep.
They are ridiculously stupid if they don't think that when Trump dies and the halo effect goes away, and suddenly they're going to look around, they're going to do the same thing they did to Biden. I don't like my life. I'm blaming the president. That's what people have done for decades in this country. It's short-sighted and stupid, in my opinion, because
Yes.
the economy and the president have nothing to do with each other. Trump's economy was Obama's economy, because the economy is always one president behind. Okay. It's always the last person who did it. And then it can be positively influenced. But it was shitty under Biden. Why? Because it was shitty because of Trump. And it was going to be shitty for another probably 2+ years because of COVID on top of that. And it just doesn't get better overnight. It just doesn't. But let me tell everybody something. The whole global economy was shitty. And our shitty economy was the best economy of all the shitty economies. So it's about them getting ahead of this unpopularity, and them having the infrastructure in place to control the population when they are displeased. It's going to be easier to control people if the country is being ravaged by natural disasters and there's no infrastructure and everything's in disarray. And then when everything goes to shit, they're going to reach in with privatized solutions to all of these overwhelming issues that the government can no longer solve. And that's how they're going to do it. And
Yep.
I've seen this from the beginning. And it actually drives you insane if
It's
you do see
the
the
thing is,
pattern.
it's so blatant. They're doing it so blatantly because they think they've gotten away with it at this point. That's
Yeah.
the difference between, like, well, not the difference, but the parallel, say, between now and Nazism is just like the rise of Hitler is when they rose, they thought they got away with it. They knew they were going to get away with it. They were in their set way and they were like, we got this. We're fucking doing it and we're going to rule forever. The problem is, unlike the Nazis, who were actually fairly good at paperwork and organization, the Trump regime is not. The Trump regime sucks at it because they're lazy. They hired some really good, really shitty, nasty people. Stephen Miller, he's one of them. Russell Vought, he's another one. They're really shitty, nasty human beings. Don Jr. is a shitty, nasty human being. He's also not as dumb as he plays off to be. His brother might be dumb, but he's not, and you haven't seen any of them. And that's a problem. And like you said, it's they're distancing themselves. You can see it very blatantly. The Murdoch empire is distancing itself from Trump on two different fronts, on their more conservative Wall Street Journal and then their propaganda side on the Fox News. They even push back against Tulsi Gabbard on Fox, saying, don't believe the lies about 2016. You can't arrest Obama. There was nothing that happened there. One, Obama has immunity, so good fucking luck. Unless you want to just
Actually,
give it to that one white guy. And then we really see that racism hanging out, and it looks an awful lot like a white hood. Um, and we all find it ugly. So the thing is, I totally agree. I think we need to be shifting, and that's part of what we're doing with our platforms right now is helping shift the narrative, because the Midas touch will respond to us too. And that's the good thing I've noticed about them is like they and Ben can be just as hard-headed as the rest of us. Like you find something really good and you know that it works and you stick with it, but you also have to see when tides shift and react quickly. And it's why certain creators come off really, really authentically when others don't, is because we're authentic about it. We see and we feel it and we bring it in and we go, this is what's happening in our life and how it's affecting us. And we need you to know too, because it's going to and is affecting you too. We can push that
so
message, especially like because the Epstein stuff, it's not going away. I'm not going to stop writing about it, but there's other important things that we need to talk about. Like,
and yeah, like so my whole thing is, you know what? I know there's 10,000 people writing about the
mhm,
Epstein files right now. I'm not even going to write about it. Why? Because I don't need to.
yep.
I don't need to. They got it
Whereas
covered.
I can. Whereas I can write poetry about it, you don't have to. You got other things you can write about, and that's where we come in. And that's the power of Substack. And I'm not going to plug Substack itself, but that's the power of what we're doing in general is we're creating, and here's where I think Midas gives us an umbrella to build off of independently of them and sort of in tangent with them is they are the national and global news for us. They
Right.
own that space. We're the local reporters now. It's our
Yes.
job to
Correct.
report
Yeah.
local news and to bring it from the ground and say, this is what's happening this moment right now that's impacting me, my neighbors, you. We got this. We tell that story and we do it really fucking well. I think a lot of us
Yeah.
are doing it really well because we bring a lot of passion to it and people want to hear truth and honesty.
Yeah. So something about me. I live in San Diego. Okay. I work at a Home Depot. Think about what I just said for a second,
Hmm.
like everybody in the chat and everything that's going on right now. Every single day, I am in the parking lot. I've got my Ice Block app and I'm talking to my guys. Hey, they're down the street. Get the fuck out of here. Go right now. I'm watching 24/7. I'm on Ice Block. A lot of people in this country still have not visibly seen ice. They don't understand how
I'm in
fucking
Arkansas.
scary it is, right? There's no
We don't have
Mexicans
it.
in Arkansas.
No,
I
there
live
are.
every
There
what
are. The
are
thing
they
is,
grabbing them?
they're not going after ours. They're not
Right.
going after illegals and illegal immigrants or undocumented folks in red states. It's a terror campaign on blue states only.
And like let me say, like there's a video that just went it's going viral. It's of a woman, she's basically getting in front of these ICE agents saying you need to stop kidnapping people. It's a blonde woman. Encinitas, that's 10 minutes from me. Okay. Just to
Mhm.
give people an
I've
idea of
been there.
where I'm at geographically. Like I'm at ground zero. Okay, like
I've
this
been
is
there. It's a
ground.
beautiful place.
I love it here, and we are a mixed culture. And
Hmm.
I have never. I mean, I've all the majority of my friends are Hispanic.
Yeah,
I
that's what
worry.
makes those places great.
I'm
It's
worried they
beautiful.
won't
It's not
show up to work.
monotonous. Yeah,
Like
man,
that's
I'm worried about my friends and people I know. I know
and
people.
yeah, and it's crazy. It's like, why are we worried about that? Why
Yeah.
that should never be a concern. And and it's like for me, I'm like, dude, I see those fuckers driving down the street. I'm like, holy crap, I hope they don't show up to work today. Like
Hmm.
it's like a genuine daily thought. When I look at my phone and I don't see an ice raids, I'm thinking it's a good day. Like what the fuck? Like, it's a good day.
Do you
Nobody's
know what
getting
that
torn.
sounds like? That sounds like when I was in Afghanistan and it was you do raids or you do missions or you come back and go, oh, no one got hit today. It's a
Yeah,
good day.
yeah,
That's fucking war. That's
yeah.
war. That's a war zone. That's not what we believe in terms of or what we
Great
should believe
parallel.
in. And
Fantastic
there's a
parallel,
reason.
right?
Why do you think I fly an American flag behind me? I do it for a reason. I do it because I earn that flag. I earn the right to fly that flag. One,
Yeah.
I'm an American citizen. Two, I signed up and I joined the military. And I've got family all throughout. Most of us do. Most people in this country are related to a service member by the second degree at most. Probably first degree. Probably someone you know directly was a service member.
My family, all the way up until my dad, like back decades, was in the military.
And
I
it's a
chose not,
pride.
and I'm proud of that. They fought in World
Hmm.
War One to World War Two to World like, all the way through all the big world wars. That's where my family was there, and I would have joined, but I have a medical condition. I have bipolar disorder, and they don't take people who
And it's for a
are
good reason.
sure, okay, like like if they don't want that, that's fine. I would have done it. I always won the pull-up competition when the Marines came to school and took all the swag, but they wouldn't take me even if I wanted
Mhm.
to. And maybe that's for the best because I went to school and I did a lot of things, and I've worked a bunch of different jobs, and I don't have a degree, but I am certainly educated, right? So there's but I'm proud of my family and
And
what they've done.
it's taking pride in that. It's taking, and it's something that I talk to. So I've become really good friends with Frederick Pogue. Um, and he and I are both veterans. He's a Marine vet. I'm an Army vet. We both have a lot of opinionated opinions on things, but we both agree on some issues. And one of them is that patriotism is ours because patriotism is something that you do and civic duty is something that you do. It's an action. Patriotism is something that ours because I earned it and you earn it. And Shane, you're earning it. And people who are listening to this are being patriotic right now.
Yes.
Not because I'm flying a flag behind me, but because you're actively engaged in a discussion and conversation around civic duty and the importance of civic engagement. The the minimum you should do as an American is vote.
Yeah.
Baseline, minimum.
I
That is
I
that
support
is rule
mandatory
number
voting.
one.
What is your opinion
Yes.
on that?
Uh,
Mandatory
I
voting?
I think it might solve some issues. There's enough people in this country who would either just pay the fine to not vote
Yeah.
anyway. But at the same time, it works. I mean, I'm all for a more progressive style of voting in terms
Yeah.
of more of a parlor, maybe making our House of Representatives a bit more parliamentarian, and increasing um ranked choice voting and pieces like that, where you actually find more pluralism in your democracy and it makes it easier and and adding access to voting and things like that. But like, it's not just the voting. Voting is piece one. Voting is your
Correct.
right. One,
Correct.
don't let them take that away from you. Don't let them take it away from you. It is your right as an American to vote. As a non if you did not go to, if you don't have a felony and you haven't had that right stolen from you, because yes, you made a mistake, but once you do your time, you should be able to get your civic rights back.
Yeah, I agree.
If you have that right to vote, that's bare minimum, do it. vote.
Right.
Step two, though, is civic engagement. And that's things like these discussions, but it's also broader things. And it's just simple. It's go open a food bank, go participate in food drives and make a weekly food drive in your community and show that somebody cares about the community because democracy is community. Democracy is a pluralistic society where we vote for the better interest of ourselves. It's where we progress, it's where we grow. It's why I wrote a poem this morning that was a haiku about tending a tree and growing a garden and pruning dead things off. Like it's okay to get rid of old dead laws that are holding us back.
The
Our
tree of
Constitution has
democracy needs to be
amendments.
refreshed from time to time, right?
Ah, the natural laws of Thomas Jefferson. In every generation, the laws of the land should reflect the living and not the dead, because the land belongs to the generation that is using it and not those who are dead. And yes, we should honor the dead and we should honor our framers and our founders by sticking to the constitutional system and the republic that they founded for us. But the whole damn point was to grow it. They told us that. They gave us amendments to the Constitution. They literally fucking amended it the first thing they did. Like, they literally amended it. They showed us the path. Yeah, and if you want, I keep seeing I love haikus. I'll read the haiku if you want for today. It's literally
Yeah,
three
I
lines.
mean, yeah, definitely pull it up. But kind of while you're looking that, I think like to your point with the amendments, and so one of the things I've been thinking forever, right? And this is like going back is like a good mode of resistance, right? A big statement. I also think it would
Hmm.
be impactful if Harvard did this. Host a second constitutional convention. There is no reason a bunch of smart people couldn't get together and draft a bunch of amendments. There's nothing
So so
illegal.
here's the danger with a constitutional convention is once it's opened, it's open. And everything is on the table. And that's why people are so afraid of it. It's because everything is on the table. And if you get the wrong people to do a constitutional amendment, that's why state houses and states are so important. That's why governorships are so important. That's why the website runforsomething.net exists. Go fucking sign up. Even if you're not going to run for something, go sign up for it anyways, because you're going to
Mhm,
get really good information and you might be able to help other people run, because Jess Piper says it really well. I like name dropping people that who do these things. Go
mhm,
follow their accounts. Jess Piper does this, says it really well. The only red seat is an unopposed seat. Go oppose them. Give every single fucking seat an opposition and study civics. And doing this is studying civics, because you're learning more about your democracy and you're learning why it matters. Not
yeah,
just that it matters, but why it matters. Why is democracy important? Because it guarantees our freedoms, our liberty, and our pursuit of happiness. Zane having to go to work, checking his phone for ice block to make sure his colleagues aren't being stolen and kidnapped and trafficked is not the pursuit of happiness for fucking anyone.
no. And I guess like so, you said something I think is interesting. And you said we're putting it on the table. At what point do we put it on the table? I've been asking myself that question for a long
You mean
time.
on like going the step further in terms of like like a hot civil war,
I'm not saying
a civil
hot.
war?
I'd saying right now we are in a cold civil war. I stated it's a culture war, right? Effectively,
Yes,
we're in a
it's
culture
a
war.
moral
So
war.
it's a moral war, right? So it's like, do you and your neighbor agree? No, actually, you and your neighbor might vehemently disagree to the point where you think you are terrible people and you do not want to associate with that scum, right? That's a culture war, right? Like you have
Yes.
two groups of people that are effectively morally warring. What I think is interesting about that is I think that, and I think it takes big people. It's going to take us to be big, but I also think it's important is Epstein offers a chance of some form of unity. Because if we can all agree that pedophiles are bad and rich pedophile rings need to be destroyed, we have a route back to unity. And if they
Yes.
realize, if MAGA realizes that they've actually been lied to by the pedophiles and we've been fighting the same war, they've just been told they're fighting the war differently. If we're going to win, it needs to be through a 100% united group. It needs to be a revolution, not a civil war. And that's
Right.
essential. It cannot
Right.
be a civil war. A civil war in America would go on for hundreds of years because There's no red or blue states. It's not the same as the
No.
1800s, and it would be sneaking over and shooting your neighbor while they're asleep, and that would go on
Yes.
forever. That's an insurrection, and that you just don't know. It just doesn't work, and that's also
Yes.
why I think we're not willing to do it because we all know that like if we start fighting, there's what the hell is going to happen? Like it would be a revolution. To your point, we're uninvadable, right? The same would
Yep.
apply to our own military. They couldn't actually exert a total control over this country. We would go into the
Correct.
woods, it would be Red Dawn, and it would never end. Um, they can't, that's why they need all these satellites and Palantir and AI, because if they have any chance of doing it at all, they're going to need extensive surveillance. They're going to need to utilize this thing. They're going to need to be able to track every transaction you make. They're going to need to say, okay, Shane and Nick are alpha threat because they're social activists and they talk online, and we need to be able to drone strike them if they get too big on their platform. And that's 10 years. And I'm serious. Like when I say that, like it
Yes.
depends how bold they get. But I could, it gets to a point where people fall out of fucking apartment buildings in Russia all the time because they sneeze on and it gets on Putin's shoe.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So
so we have to make sure as an American society, one, we don't let ourselves get to that precipice, and that's avoidable. And I think we're past certain points of no return, but we're not past the point of no return of a constitutional order in our society. Because one, it's it has not remained bloodless at all because people have died. There have been people who have died in this pursuit of destroying the American system and democracy. We're seeing it all the time. We have concentration death camps in
yeah, we do.
Florida. We have four of them. We have four of them active right now going on, killing people. It's not bloodless. It is for most people. And like you said, it will remain this way in terms of a cold civil war or this type of something, probably until after JD Vance becomes president, until the Republican Party fractures.
Yeah.
What it to me it's going to take is an upswell of folks like us who are willing to push back, not as Democrats, not as Republicans, but as Americans.
Yes.
And like you
Yes.
said, is accept each other. There's a difference between forgiveness and forgetting. And there's a
Right.
difference between forgiving someone and forgetting. It's okay to forgive people. It's okay to know that your family or your friends that they were lied to. You don't have to throw it in their face either. You don't have to remind them of it afterwards. Once that spell breaks, love them. Fucking take all that energy that you had rage and focus it on bringing them back because they just got out of a cult. You
Yes.
need to love bomb them back into real
Yes.
life because that's how you make community is you remind people why there's a community that they want to be a part of, and right now they don't want to be a part of it. It's the sovereign citizen movement. It's the anti-vax movement. It's all of the it's anti-constitutional, it's anti-American because it's anti-constitution. It's meant to destroy the constitutional order and the fabric of our society. Bring them back because they have been lied to, and you don't need to throw it in their face. Just tell them, hey man, or hey, I love you. Yeah, things happen. We'll talk about them. We'll figure it out. We'll work on it. But right now, you're back and
Yeah.
you matter, and your opinion and your voice is needed too because those who were most impacted, who have been red pilled the hardest,
Are the
have
ones
had
getting slapped right now.
they've had the least love in their lives, and
Mm,
they've had the most people looking at them right now
yeah.
and for deserved reasons telling them they suck.
Yeah.
But once that pill breaks and they're out, stop telling them they suck.
Yeah.
Don't remind them that they sucked because then they'll go back into it.
Right. And that's the
Welcome
thing
them
with
in,
cults, right? Yeah.
forgive, but don't forget.
Yeah.
You can forgive failings and help guide people back into a moral chamber that matters. Because right now, like you said, they're tearing at stuff that shouldn't be torn at. Like pedophilia is becoming normalized in our country because it's a moral attack on American society, not just on the rule of law. It's on our fabric of society and telling us that nasty shit like that is okay, and it's not. And it takes people like me and Shane, who are white men, me more so at times because I'm a veteran, to go, no,
Yeah.
fuck you, and say it to their face and tell them that it's wrong and it's disgusting, and welcome people in who want to learn and who are earnest in that learning and intent to learn. If they show that they have no intent to learn, boot their ass out because they're not there to be beneficial. They're there to be an ass. But if
Yep.
someone's willing to learn and grow, welcome them in to do it because then they'll keep doing it.
Yeah. That's what the Firebrand Project is all about. It's a movement for free thinkers.
Yeah.
It's about thinking for yourself. It's about the fact that we live in an echo chamber, and we need to be very aware of ourselves here that we are in our own echo chamber right now,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
right? We're in our own echo chamber. You and me, we agree. Maybe not on everything, but that's good. That's part of being a philosopher. It's me accepting, you know what? Hey, Shane, there are people on the Midas Touch Network that are talking about these things, but you haven't seen them.
Yep.
Okay, that's on me. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to pull back and I'm going to say that's something I just learned. And I get to amend my process going forward, my thinking on the basis that there are those things in place. There are people talking about that. And that makes me feel like, okay, maybe then let's pivot. And like you said, we're under an umbrella. That's a great thought I'd never had, right? Is the Midas Touch Network umbrella. They have denormalized corporate media, and that
Mm-hmm.
gives citizen reporting a new base. It means that people are looking for new sub networks because if the
Yep.
news is Midas Touch, then I don't want to watch Midas Touch all the time. But Shane and Nick shooting the shit here, talking about this stuff,
Yeah.
that's cool. There's 156 of you guys here. We're not even like talking about anything specific. We're just talking about all these things that bother us and that come to
Yep.
mind. And that things can change. And that, hey, I see this and we see this. And you have this background in AI and this tech. And I think that's super important because, and I would encourage you to actually leverage that on your, our, my headphones just died. So here I am with our pivot. I'm going to pivot again,
Yeah.
because I'm like that. But, we are facing this existential AI threat right now. We are.
Yes.
It's happening. And right now, uh, there needs to be, that shift. And if it's got to be from the bottom up, that's fine. And that's how is it has to filter because right now, to your point, Ben is hard headed. Holy crap. I know he's hard headed. He's like, I love the fact that when he started smacking Trump across the face like that every day, I said, that works. And it
Mm-hmm.
worked for months. But now maybe what we're starting to see is that they've been playing the long game the whole time.
Yeah.
And you and me know this, right? We know they've been playing the long game the whole time. We know that this started in 2016 when, all of these algorithms started to change and they started to flood the zone with bots that pretend to be people. They radicalized a lot of these MAGA people who were pretty neutral by
Yep.
flooding their feed with bots to make it seem like all of these people were in on this and they never were really in on it. It was fake. A lot of them they were never even people. People don't understand how easy it is to write a piece of code that goes out there and suddenly acts like a person. And when people think that the world and all social media is made of people, if there is a person, there has to be a person behind the words you're seeing on your screen. That's not true. And that hasn't been true for years. And it allows them to curate a space where they can radicalize people. And that's what they did. And they knew that they probably weren't going to get him a second term. And they knew that they were going to have to wait and they were going to have to leverage what was going to come with the economy and they were going to have to capitalize. And they knew that they could drive these things because you think that Trump, when he first ran, I believe this too, when he announced his second campaign, he was just trying not to go to jail, right?
Yep.
That was, but then and he did that for a couple months. Then he sat down and he had his 8-hour Project 2025 briefing. And I guarantee you it went like this. We know you're trying not to go to jail. Would you like to get richer, you selfish prick? Okay, there's a couple conditions. JD Vance needs to be your VP, and you're going to let Stephen Miller write all the bills and pretty much do the whole job. You're going to appoint your own people, but we're going to run the presidency, and you get to be a king because we'll let you run the country forever, which is what you really want, right? You want to be a king, so you can just be a king, and we'll run everything from the shadows, and you will continue to make money. And he said, "Fuck yeah!" And
Yep.
that's what happened. That's literally what happened. Full stop. It doesn't take a lot to realize that he's only ever been out for himself. And that was it. That was his golden ticket because he didn't want to do the job. He didn't want to do the job the first time. He
No.
didn't want to do
And
the
he's
job,
really bad at it anyway.
and he sucked. But he said if someone told him, "Hey, you got to be king, and I'll do the job for you," he's like, "Holy crap! Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so down." And here we are. And they're ready to get rid of him. And then Elon dropped the Epstein bomb. And then Elon exited. And they're saying, well, Elon exited because of Tesla. I mean, yeah, and yes and no, right? I think that Elon exited because he just
He
has
got all
enough.
the data he needed.
He got all the data for Peter and he's out, right? Because Peter Thiel is, I say this a lot. Peter Thiel is always 1 to 2 figures removed, but he always has direct influence over what's happening. There is not a
Yes.
single decision being made that you can't link back to him via 1 or 2 direct people that he's having a conversation with them, right? So and the Heritage Foundation has morphed, right? It's
Hmm.
grown like all things. It went from being big oil to kind of realizing that, okay, we need to take in big tech if we want to maintain our power envelope because we can't run everything through energy anymore. It's all tech. So we need to,
7 years ago, if you were in tech and you said you were MAGA, you got run out of the street. You got run out.
right.
Nowadays, you could say you're MAGA and you could be a fucking racist asshole and people will
Yeah.
like you.
Yeah. And like, why are they making all these? What the hell are we talking about with coal? Right? Because there's still interests there. There's still old money interests there, and they need to be catered to. It's part of the deal. We're going to let
Hmm.
you guys destroy the environment even more, but that's just part of the deal because we needed you. You guys had to give us, the
We
money and
needed that
your
$1 billion.
lobbyists. Yeah, we needed your lobbyists to get in. We needed your infrastructure to get in. And you guys were already kind of soft Nazis the whole time anyway, because most of the old money came out of the South and they never punished anyone adequately after the Civil War. So they just slowly, constantly evolved their, racist views. And when they couldn't have slaves anymore, pulled the fucking sharecropping. When they couldn't sharecrop anymore, they did Jim Crow. When they couldn't Jim Crow anymore, they pivoted to economic wage slavery. And that's where
Yep.
we are. Okay, like
Yep.
that. It's boop, 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 like Lisa says, one goes with the other. It's okay. It's just constantly been morphing. It's just constantly been changing, and that's what's been going on for decades. And I
Hmm.
will always point to Reagan when it all went to shit. I would because when he's when stock buybacks became legal, the market changed forever, forever, and
So,
they pushed people out of the economy. I think that's a really like I don't think the average investor has the power that they used to, especially in terms of having a publicly owned corporation. Those corporations own more of themselves than the investors do. So it's not a free market. They can call
no,
it what they
it never
want.
has been.
And yeah, and it's certainly not a free market anymore because people don't even have enough money. We are literally all locked in some circle of debt. Everyone owes something, right?
Hmm.
If you told my father-in-law, okay, who's 83, he says buy everything in cash, own it, because that's what you're supposed to do. If you want something, you should own it. What the hell is the point of owing someone else for it? You work hard, you get your money, you buy your shit, and it's yours. But they changed it. They re-sculpted it. There was a time when they had to run ads for credit cards because people didn't want to owe
Hmm.
money. Like now it's like, how many credit cards do you have? What's your credit score? Do you want this? Do you want that?
Well,
right?
the next step is a social credit score.
Yep,
And that's
that's
the
that's where I was going. Yep, yep, yep. Go ahead, take it, run with
Okay,
it.
so that I'm sorry I jumped you there a little bit,
No,
but
that's
I'm glad
perfect.
we're on the same page. Is the next step is a social credit scoring. That's where Palantir comes in. That's
Yep.
where the tech giants in your data. It's already something that they do in China, or at least we've been told they do it in China. Whether they actually do or not, eh, we'll see. But what it is it's a social credit score. It's your score as a person based on what you put on the internet and your social network and how influential you are, how wealthy you are, and it all goes into a rating similar to your credit score that just goes, oh, you want to live in section 300, floor 12,000 of this new super mega structure in
Yep.
our new Judge Dredd city.
Black Mirror did
Um,
do this. That's exactly what I was thinking about.
like
Is that Black Mirror episode? Yep. Mm-hmm.
it's all about, and they told us in the beginning was it's Elon Musk said it a bunch of times, is it's going to be really painful. Is what they're going to do is going to be really painful because they're purposely crashing the economy to uplift crypto because that's the only way that Trump makes any money on the crypto scheme with his World Liberty Financial is if the US dollar tanks and it gets replaced by a crypto system. And maybe we're at the time when crypto might be worth starting to investigate and look into, but it's still too early and there's no regulations.
I did
And
a
yeah, go
huge
ahead.
piece on I did a huge piece on crypto before WLFI launched. Okay, I wrote about this extensively. It's one of the longest things I've ever written. And I wrote about it 2 months before, like when they bought the stake, right? Like when all of this went down. I wrote about this and I said, like, you know, Qatar, all like billions of dollars just moved right out of
Hmm.
these places. It just suddenly billions are flying everywhere, and it's only 40 wallets. Think about
Yep.
that. If billions of dollars, 40 wallets, what does that mean? It means that the shadow economy, how much money has been extracted from our economy, put into crypto and moved into, there is a big big bag of crypto money flying above all of us, flying above the global economy. And it could be anywhere close to $40 trillion that has just been pretty much extracted and put into crypto. So it just exists, right? It's just there. But
And
they
it's
can they
useless.
can grab it as they please, right? They'll
Mhm.
just take it when they want it. And what's going to happen is when you know you see that you have the dollar's going to crash, everything's going to go to shit, and they're going to liquidate all of the crypto, everything that's been there. And then they're going to buy everything. And then they also have crypto, which to your point, the dollar has been destroyed. Okay. So now crypto is worth more. So they're holding the most valuable asset. Um, and there's a lot of it. And,
And
there, there,
I'm seeing a comment in there that crypto is secure, crypto is worth it because it is secure. So I'll say this as a tech person, it's sure it's secure, but it's also not. Um, like yeah, it's secure and it's locked down and it's a decentralized network, and that's the whole point of it is security. But it's only as secure as the person who's using it. Because if you give out your crypto wallet number, it's done, it's over. If you give a transaction to the wrong thing or the wrong number or a wrong entity, it's gone. No, yeah, sure. Every transaction can be tracked with a metadata piece that nobody knows how to trace and track, other than the people who contingently made it or have secure separation back systems into it. You're not going to convince me that that crypto is
stop.
secure right now because it's been shown not to be, because it's been broken into, because governments are doing it, because that's how it's made to operate. You think Bitcoin is secure? Who the fuck made Bitcoin? You don't know. Who made Bitcoin? Some guy with a moniker that's Satoshi? He has never
Scott
come
Dawes,
out.
he does this. He's like an agitator. He's
No,
an
that's
agitator.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean that's okay, but it brings up the topic of
Yeah.
is crypto's not as secure as you think. You think it's
No.
secure, sure. It's like magic though. It's fucking only as secure as your computer is until somebody hacks into it and takes it all away and crashes the whole damn thing and just destroys it. And that's okay. We're not ready for crypto. The problem is we could use crypto. Crypto's fine. Crypto's not a bad thing. I'm not against crypto in the long run. I think it's too early in the tech still because we have not invested on it on a base research level to understand what its long-term consequences are to our financial systems. But if we're going to do it, we don't crash our own damn economy to start it. We fucking work it in and we replace a solid dollar economy with a digital crypto economy that we control as a federal government and not Trump as a fucking person. So, no, going the Federal Reserves and changing it to crypto now is a dumbass fucking idea because
Yeah.
it's not
Well,
secure and it's not ready. And you know who owns that? Private entities and not governments.
and like, Lisa said something. She said, what did she just say? If there's no electric, you suddenly have no money. Okay. And honestly, I'd go farther. I have issues. One of my big issues is just wealth in general. I say this all the
Mhm.
time. Billionaires shouldn't exist. No one can earn $1 billion. You will never convince me that anyone can earn $1 billion. There's nothing you can do. There's no service valuable enough to provide to anyone that is worth $1 billion. Now, you can certainly no one can earn $300 billion. Okay.
No, not without slavery.
There's nothing like if you work your hardest, okay, and you do. I believe that a person can acquire anywhere between 10 million and $50 million if they really, really do a good job. I do believe that. But we don't talk about the world in millions anymore. And when I was a kid, I mean, I'm a kid. I'm talking about 15, 16 years old. We would say, I want to be a millionaire when I grow up.
Hmm.
And suddenly, within a decade, the billions is gone. We're on a billions. We're starting to talk about trillions. Okay.
Yeah.
The rapid expansion of wealth. Now, here's what I say is that when do we decide their money is worthless? That's a huge thing. Is how much of your money is worth anything? Because if I said, Elon, show me your fucking money. I want to see the cash. I
He
want
doesn't have
cash,
any.
bitch. You don't have shit. You don't have shit, Elon. You have a fucking million IOUs and a bunch of fucking zeros on your screen. You don't have shit. You don't have shit. You only have what you say you have, and you only have it because we say you have it. Full
Yes.
stop. And that's
Yes.
it. And that's the way they need it to be. Otherwise, it all falls apart. Now, I firmly believe the only way we beat these guys, and this literally could save our democracy, is if we just stop fucking paying our credit cards. If we collectively were like, fuck your credit cards. This is a fucking scheme. And we have money. We need to buy food. Fuck you.
Well, what we
You know?
need is dumb is politician. The thing is, we need to get money out of politics in a way that it returns it to the people, and that only happens when enough people get pissed off and enough people actually do something. And there's a lot I see about, oh, when is the Democratic Party going to step up and do its job? Well, it's going to step up when enough Democrats who are in Democratic states, who are in safe blue districts, email and call their reps and tell them to fucking do it. I can't do it for mine because I have a red rep. Mine doesn't fucking listen to me. He's lied to me. His office has lied to me multiple times and told me they cared about veterans and veterans issues. You know how I know they don't is because I'm going to be 7 months without a doctor at the VA before I see my next primary care provider visit. So no, they don't give a shit. But you know who does or who say they do? The Democrats. And if they don't, go to runforsomething.net, sign up and run against them or get people to run against them. Because if we run in every seat or every race for every open position from now until infinitum, because that's what democracy demands of us to do, that's our responsibility as a citizen. As a citizen, you have responsibilities. It's not just democracy gives back. It's your job to feed the tree, feed democracy. Voting is just the beginning. The next step is to do the rest, is to pressure your fucking politicians. And if they don't do it, vote them out or give your friends somebody to vote for or something to vote for.
Yeah, and I think to a point, I think that I personally, this is me, and I understand the position is we need to back the Democrats because we can't back the Republicans. I get it. I firmly believe the Democratic establishment is so fucking rotten that in the same vein, we have to not give them the credit. They need to earn it back, right? They are not our saviors. At the very least, they're on their last freaking thread, and we're about ready to toss their asses out too, because they could, and they definitely could have done more. There was times when the Senate let things go that they just shouldn't have let go, right?
And
Schumer
if you're
even
in,
voted,
yeah,
and
and if you know, if you're Schumer's person, if you're one of his constituents, call him every fucking day, be an asshole to him and tell him how wrong he was for doing that. He's not mine.
I also think that to a point, to go back to the sense of unity. Okay, we were talking about post MAGA, right?
Yeah.
And bringing them in, telling them you love them. I don't think we can back the Democrats and have that unity. I don't. I don't think those people will. I think like they. I don't think that they will be willing to come to that party because they might have left the cult, but they're not overnight going to stop hating the Democrats. They're still going to think they're pedophiles and bad, and they probably are. We need to be
Hmm.
honest with ourselves, right? We need to be honest with ourselves. I know Schumer diddled kids. Look at the man. I mean, he's in the book. I saw his name in the book. Okay,
And
so that we and they've been protecting. Why didn't Biden release the Epstein files? Because too many important establishment Democrats were in the files that they were concerned that it would affect their ability to get reelected. That is why they didn't do it. And that's what cost them. Because at the end of the day, if Trump was in jail for pedophilia, he couldn't have run for president. He couldn't
yes,
have done it. But they
yeah.
didn't care. They would have rather protected their own than release those files. And if we had Kamala, we still wouldn't see those files. So
Yes.
honestly, that we just,
So
yeah,
to me, it's the idea, and I get it. It's fucking it's hard. It's hard because you feel hopeless and you want to throw your hands up too. Like I get it. You want to throw your hands up on things like this because it feels like the Democrats ain't doing shit. Because for the most part, they're not. Like there are some really good ones out there, and it's not about the Democrats. I don't care about the Democrats. I don't care about the Republicans. It's like I said, it's about being an American. And we need to remind people of the civic engagement portion. And if people hate the Republican Party and but don't want to vote for a Democrat, well then run as a Republican. Fucking run as a Republican. Just because MAGA has won for now, they only win when Trump is on the ticket. MAGA only wins when Trump is on the ticket. They're fired up right now because Trump won, and then they got lied to, and they got told and saw that they were lied to, and then now it's being thrown back in their face. And he told them he doesn't want them anymore, and we can use that. Pour fire on the gasoline. Why do you think I write about Epstein? I fucking hate the topic. I don't want to write about pedophilia, but I'm going to pour fire on that gasoline because it keeps people engaged. But at the same time, it's the next step. It's like we talked about. It's the doing. It's the what do you do? It's democracy is active. Democracy is education, is learning. And if we're not going to be taught that education by our officials and our or schools are shutting down because Department of Education is getting defunded and everything else that's going on, we do that. Those of us who know it, those of us who you other people trust, who people in our chat here trust, like people come to see us because they trust that we're saying something that's not a blatant fucking lie to them. Because I'm sitting here and I'm telling you that I care. Because I do. I care that you guys are here listening to me and learning and asking questions because I want to learn. I want to make sure that this survives because I have kids. because I have kids that need to grow up in this society and I need to teach them how to be moral and ethically right. And we can't do that with a president who's a pedophile. And we
No.
can't do that with a Congress who protects pedophiles. And you know how we stop that? Run for something and get involved,
Yeah,
because
I
then we change. And but we don't do it as the moniker of Republican or Democrat, or if we do it as both, because that's what we are. And that's something that I talk about in that Frederick Pogan I talk about, that I like to talk about in general, is it's the idea of conservatism isn't inherently on the right. Conservatism is an act of conserving. The definition of conserve means to protect and to let grow and to sustain and to promote growth. So I'm going to go back to the haiku that I was going to read for everyone from today.
Yeah, oh my gosh, you got so far away. I apologize.
So circling it back, because this is about that. It's about conserving. I wrote this haiku from the lens of a gardener, from someone, because the conversation that Frederick Pogue and I had was about the tree of liberty, and that the founding fathers planted a sapling for us to grow. And that foundation that that sapling was planted into was the Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, our Federalist Papers, and all of our founding documents. That was the soil in which we planted a sapling of liberty, which grows over time. And just like a garden must be pruned, you must care for your garden and you must pull weeds, because if you don't, it just goes wild and it dies. It dies without care. So I wrote this haiku last night called Foundations, and it's just about that. So very short, very sweet, but here is Foundations. Civic foundation, tend her soil, prune our tree. New growth springs from care.
There you go.
And I left it as simple as that, because we must care for our democracy and we must prune away some of the old, and not just tend to the soil, not just tend to the Constitution and say that we believe in the Constitution as a rigid, dead document, because it's not. It's alive. It's like a tree. You grow and you prune a tree and you keep it alive and you amend it and you take away the dead when it needs it.
Yeah, and that's right. That's what it is. It was always a living document, right? It was never, and it's like, I've always felt this way ever since I was a freaking kid. Okay, I'm gonna go back to school. I'm like, why? And I'm 12, I'm 14. I'm asking my parents, why the hell doesn't anything get done? What the hell is the
Hmm.
point of a government? Like, please explain to me why we give them money. Like, I'd like to understand because I don't
And
see
it's
anything. I
supposed to
don't,
be services in return for what we pay for. And that's what
right, and I
government
don't
can
see
be.
that.
Yeah. And we can
And
promote
so,
that.
yeah, we can. And I think that's what needs to happen, right? I think that at the end of this road, um, there's one of two things, right? Because if you go too big picture, if you go big picture, right? Like we're not just like I want to have kids, right? You have kids. I want your kids to have a world to grow up in, right? I want them to have a planet to live on.
Yes.
Like that's what I'm saying. And and you know what's crazy is they say we don't have this energy. My brother just graduated from university, California, Santa Barbara. He was the most published undergrad they'd had in like 20 years. Okay. He's going to Scripps Research Institute to get his doctorate. Me and
Good
him
for
went to
him.
lunch the other day. He's freaking genius. Okay. I'm so freaking proud of him. Me and him went to lunch the other day. I asked him, I'm like, what do you think about clean energy? Like, what options do we have? Like, I know like they sustained fission, right? In Switzerland, right? They did it for like 30 seconds. Well,
Hmm.
like if you're not familiar with fission, it's basically what happens in a star. It's the hack for unlimited energy. Okay. Like it's literally like the tech is in his to his point, he said, there's companies that can make a reactor at a certain scale that would power the entire country. Just one. The tech's
Hmm.
there. The tech exists.
There's no money
And
in it, though.
there's no money.
It's just because they're never going to give them the money because all of a sudden, these billions, let's be honest, trillions of dollars that makes the world go round, which is oil, that
Hmm.
is the entire economy is built around oil, they will kill the planet before they move away from their wealth because
Yeah.
they're greedy and they're going to die before they see the consequences. That's how they feel. And that's the truth. But the reality is if a government were to step in, and this is where it's like, I'm going to go really rosy here because I think that we should go rosy. I'm going to talk
Hmm.
about the world that I think could be and that
Yeah.
should exist and that we could make exist. A government that comes in, properly regulates, okay? And this is my vision for what I think would work. It's not perfect, it's my opinion, whatever. I think a socialist, capitalist hybrid system would be the best type of system. It allows people to be motivated and still acquire their own wealth because we are greedy creatures and we have to be, we're greed motivated. We just are. We have to accept that about ourselves, right? Philosophers have spent hundreds of years thinking about we're greedy, greedy bastards. And we need to pursue something in service of ourselves. That's what motivates us. Okay. So in a world where we achieve that, we have social systems in place to take care of people. They have universal health care. Okay. We have good education. They don't need to worry about getting food. All right. And it leaves a space for innovation. Okay. What is our biggest problem as humans? It's our environment. It's being efficient. It's about utilizing the resources that we have to extend the amount of time we get to spend on this planet. Let me tell you something. That's a lot of jobs. That's a lot of jobs. That's so many jobs. You would not believe how many jobs that is. Okay. Because we got a lot of problems like
Hmm.
carbon capture. The tech is there. Okay. We could fix global warming. When the AMOC collapses, the scientists have said there's like a 10 to 15-year window where it could be reversed. Okay. But now the thing is, they're steamrolling us towards that window and we're not ready. But we could do it. We still could do it. And if
Yes.
we take back our country, effectively take back our country, if we do away with billionaires, if we institute, this is my personal opinion, I think a wealth cap or a certain point at which you are taxed 99.9% of your income once you hit
Yeah.
a
Why
certain
not?
bracket, like
You don't need
that's
it.
you don't need it. And you know what? Who does need it? Homeless people. Those people who need food, orphans whose parents have died. All of that money could just go back because if we actually created a circular wealth loop, if you say, I get wealthy to a certain point, I'm comfortable. Now I get to contribute to society. There, you get fulfillment. You achieve personal wealth and
Hmm.
personal success, and you also get to contribute to society. That is the closed loop. That is the loop that works. We need to build a system that works for humans. Humans, we need to think about who we are. And that's where the philosophical part of the Firebrand Project lives within me. We're humans. And we have to
Yep.
understand ourselves if we're going to build a government that is effective for people. And if we don't build in safeguards, this was the mistake of the founding fathers, in my opinion, is they didn't build in safeguards to protect our Constitution from people. They built in the safeguards to protect it from tyrants and all of these things, but they didn't protect it from people. And the reality is that people are always going to try and get the most. If we're going to have an effective system, it needs to account for the fact that someone is going to try and twist it to their own personal gain. And that
And
system needs to be built to protect itself from us. I'm done.
and
There you go.
some yeah, somebody said in the comment the idea of no need to knock someone else down to do it. It's okay to get ahead, but no need to knock someone else down.
Correct. Yes.
Well, the idea of taxing somebody after a certain wealth isn't knocking somebody down. You're not knocking down their achievements. You're not knocking down what they're producing or well, maybe not producing, but contributing to allow maybe others to produce off of. Maybe you're not knocking them down. What you're doing is creating a social contract. There's a difference. Democracy is a social contract. civilization in general is a social contract,
Yeah.
but democracy itself is a much more rigid one where your social contract is you are part of this system and you have to pay into that system in whatever way is accept or is appropriate to fund it properly to make sure that everybody else around you gets access to the same system, because it's not a zero-sum game. It's a balloon and not a pie. We don't each take a slice of the democracy and everybody else is only left with a little bit left. The more you put in, the more you get. And so the more you put in, the bigger the democracy becomes and the easier it is. It's not the problem with, I think, what we did in our country is we overburdened we gave ourselves to the point of democracy where we overburdened ourselves with regulation and not with rights. We said
Yeah.
you can't do this, and not that you're guaranteed the right to have this. Like, you should be guaranteed the right to have bodily autonomy or food on the table or housing or an education, not, oh, we need to restrict access to education for one group to give it to another. It's not restrict, it's open. Democracy is open. It's a door that swings wide open and says, welcome in. And it's the idea of why, like you said, why the party system itself is inherently wrong is one, because our founders said, don't do it. And then we did it
Right.
anyway. Is it's okay to break the party system a little bit. And it doesn't have to start with us breaking the Democrats. We don't have to be the ones to break the Democrats. The Democrats are going to break themselves over
Yeah.
time under the weight of their own failures. We, the people, organize and vote in people who reflect us. We stop giving a shit what they have to say. And yeah, it's going to be hard as hell because money buys politics right now. But what's going to happen is it's going to, like I keep saying, is everybody's going to have to chip in a little bit somewhere in some way. And then we tax the shit out of the rich and we tax the fuck out of them until at a rate where pre-Reagan era, where after a certain wealth, you just don't make any more money because you don't fucking need it. There's no point. Even if you own a rocket company, you don't need $10 trillion in your bank account. That's what dragons did, and they died under their own weight in stories because they hoarded themselves to death. Let's not be the dragons. Let's be the people who come in and kill the dragon and take the fucking money back, because it's about people over money. And that's
And
where that's us. We're the people.
that's why they're doing this. Just like to your point, right? They're doing this because they know that they've grown the gap so far that people are going to start to come for their money. That they have taken and extracted so much that people are going to start to come for their money. And so they need to exercise and institute this authoritarian state to keep it. And that's why they're doing this. They allowed things to go for so long. And I've always said, if they just stopped, just a couple miles short of where they are, they could have just had what they wanted forever. They could have just been that way, because people could still barely make it and still have a little something.
Yep.
And we would have taken that, because we just
Because
don't
we're
pay-
beaten into that system as an
Yeah,
American is
right.
to think that we need to produce to be valuable.
Right. And so that's the nature of greed, right? They're going to hoard themselves to death. And, this ends, right? It does end. And I no matter what, this ends. Okay. So that's another thing. If you're feeling despair, this does end. Now, there's a lot of ends, and some of them are very ugly, but there's been ugly times in all of history, forever and ever, and life is ugly. And we are just lucky in America that we've been able to not live an ugly life. But the reality is, ugly comes for everybody. Okay? Do you think
Hey,
that people in
I'm gonna
Ukraine?
stop you. Hold on, I'm gonna stop you for a second. I don't know what that comment was, Dog Chapman, but I'm gonna call your ass out if that's a fucking anti-Semitic comment, because I'm Jewish and I am Democratic and I fucking take offense to that. You can fuck yourself in the ass right now and get lost, because that's fucking anti-Semitic crap and I won't take it. You
I'd
don't
lock
get to
them.
call but I'm going to keep on this for a second. You don't get
No,
to
you do it.
fucking call people
I
that.
just want to make
You
sure you
don't
know
get
that.
to call out people like that in comments like that, shitheads like that, just because you're a keyboard fucking warrior. You don't get to tell people all Jews and the Jews are Democrats. You know why? Because that's how fucking concentration camps happen, and that's how we killed 11 million of my people during World War II because, oh, they were just Jews. They weren't real people. It's why we're putting migrants into fucking concentration camps now. That is the behavior, and it fucking pisses me off. Thank you for blocking him from and
You're
kicking him
welcome.
out of this chat. I respect you a lot for that. I appreciate that. And if you see that, people, call it out. Call it out because that's the thing that we need to do. And I'm so mad that that asshole did that because, God, Shane, you were on a good point and you were bringing us to such a positive note, and that's fucking garbage.
It's disgusting.
That is the shit that caused MAGA in the first place because we told them all of these people are in one place and you got to hate them, or all of this bullshit and you got to hate that group of people. I'm fucking Jewish. I have been called shit you don't want to hear, and some of you probably don't even know the words of. Glenn, you're calling it out exactly right. Make fascists afraid again. Chris Goldsmith says this, make fascists afraid again. And not in you're going to hurt them physically. Make them afraid again by running them out of your fucking town. By you find out somebody's a fascist and attends a fucking hate group meeting, you put a dot around their house on Google Maps and you walk to every single one of their neighbor and you hand out a flyer with their picture and what they said. And you go, do you know you live next to a Nazi? I bet you that person's going to be gone in a week.
Yeah. And
We
you know
don't
what?
stand for that shit because it's ingrained in our society so deeply that people die for it all the time. And we need to stop it and confront it exactly when it happens and not let it pass by.
You know, they still lynch people in the South. They do it
Yeah.
all the time. Okay. This is, we, just because we, don't, people don't see it. Okay. You know, I read the most horrible thing the other day. And actually, I'm just going to say this. I don't even want to go into all of this stuff, but people, they still treat these things haven't gone away. They just get quiet. Okay. They just get quiet and they fester and they fester. And then someone like Trump and MAGA comes along and suddenly they're empowered and they're excited and they get nasty. And suddenly they're in the chat again. Okay. In the era of Obama, okay, if someone had said that, people would have gotten on their ass a lot more. But these people feel stronger. They feel emboldened. They see that the people in power are okay with it and they're going to keep doing it. Okay. And that is where I think, and, to come, full circle, because my phone's about to die and we could probably talk another 4 hours.
Oh, we'll
and
have to schedule some more. I'd love to have you on my
Yeah.
show too.
Yeah, absolutely. I would dig it. Just to kind of go back to what I was trying to say is everyone goes through bad times. Okay. Like the world, I was going to say, do you think the people of Ukraine wanted to be invaded by Russia? Do you think those kindergarten teachers wanted to go to the front lines and fucking kill people? No, they wanted to help kids. That's what they wanted to do. Do you think the nurses and the guys who went to school I was watching a video. I'm very involved in being aware of the war in Ukraine. I just have, since 2022, I worked with a guy at Starbucks who was Ukrainian, and he showed me a picture of his best friend's mom's apartment building and how she died because it got hit by a Russian missile. Okay. And since then, I've watched this conflict and I've watched the resolve of the Ukrainian people. And I've watched people who don't want to fight, who don't want this, who had to step up and do it anyway. And what I can say is that they make us look pathetic. And we have more power to change things than they do because there's not an army knocking on our door. And we should all look to Ukraine and the strength that they are showing to align us in the fact that we will have tanks on our streets if we don't change this. But we can. And together it's possible. But the people of Ukraine, they will get through this invasion. They will live through it. And Ukraine will be there after. And this country will still be here after this is over. And
Yes.
and that's also a fact. So don't fall into this sense of it's all over, because it's not. You know, like, and I like it. I'm going to end with this thought, and I think I'd like to give you a thought to end on as well.
Yeah.
Um, you know, they always say, Rome didn't fall in a day, okay, but it kind of did. Just a little bit, right? Because there was a day in Rome when all of the oligarchs got all their money together and their legislative system stopped working because they were all a bunch of greedy bastards and they weren't able to properly govern all of these massive territories in this massive empire that they had. And then suddenly it all started to fall apart and people would revolt in certain places and they lost their grip and their economy started to fall apart. And then they got hit by a big plague, COVID, and then everything just started to fall apart. And then at a certain point, it just all imploded. You know what we are? America is an empire. Okay. We have more bases and crap and involvement all over the globe. And it's the same thing. And you know
Hmm.
what came out of Rome? A whole new world.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't have anything. There's nothing bad about that. Just remember, change isn't always bad, and our government is meant to change and grow with us. Let it. Let
Yeah.
it change and grow and be modern. We're modern, so let's modernize this democracy together.
Correct. Yeah. So thank you guys all for being here. Nit, thank you for taking the time out of your evening on such short notice to hop on here and chat with me for
Yeah.
pushing me on a couple of things and helping change my perspective as well. I really appreciate that. After talking to me, you can tell I'm insanely passionate about just about everything. And I love this country and I love you guys. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being firebrands. And each and every one of you, you have so much power by taking what our conversation was here today and taking that and bringing that to your neighbor, bringing that to your dinner table. And, that's super powerful. And I appreciate each and every one of you for that.
I appreciate y'all. Walk away with hope from this,
Yes,
because we're the
absolutely.
democracy. Walk away with hope.
All right,
Thanks, y'all.
guys. Burn bright.
Thanks, y'all.